welcome to Pour Over Marketing. I'm Rob Southgate. Apparently, I've got a little smudge on my face there. I don't know what's going on. But you can tell it's morning. You can tell I'm still recovering from PopCon. That's where we're at, man. I got lots of things I want to talk about today. Oh, rolling out a different mug today. My metallic Darth Vader mug. So a year ago, I used to collect toys, and our garage was full of toys. And a year ago, we finally pulled the plug and sold almost all of it because it's just rotting in a garage. We don't use it, you know. Um, I was one who was always collecting things, and I suppose I still do. Like I collect books, especially business books or horror books or fantasy books. I try not to. I try not to just spend willy-nilly, but I didn't get rid of them, so I'm going to say I collect them. So a year ago, Maven finally had enough of our garage being overtaken by toys, and it was ridiculous. And I was looking at it and I was like, you know what? I love toys. I love the feel of them, the creativity. It sparks something. It sparks joy, to quote Marie Kondo. But having all that crap around did not spark joy. So I very selectively got rid of stuff. By very, I mean, I went, what do I know I want to keep? I found it, and the rest of it could go. In there, I did find a few treasures. One of them was I found a box that had a whole bunch of these types of mugs, these Star Wars heads. Although I thought I had a couple of Star Trek heads, and I couldn't find those. I ended up ditching them, even though I thought they were cool, and I wanted to keep probably, if there were 10 in there, I probably wanted to keep 8 of them. But I went, they're clogging things up. I don't need them. I'm not going to display them. I've got enough crap to display, right? Make room. And if they were in a box for 20 years, it can go. But I did pick 2 out. I picked a Boba Fett because I kind of collect Mandalorian Boba Fett type images, figures, even though I've got a limited amount and I'm not expanding it. And then I kept this. I had a regular Darth Vader that I thought was pretty freaking cool, but then I thought, do I need 2? How about if I go with the one that, like, this silver one just kind of spoke to me. I was like, that's really cool. So that's how I ended up with this. But today we'll find out, even though it's cool, is it a good coffee mug? I don't know. We'll see. My coffee might go cold instantly. You can't microwave it. You can't put it in a dishwasher. It might just be something cool to throw up on my shelf, which I did pull out some new toys this week. I don't know if I showed this before, but things I kept were, that's the original Star Wars figures, the original 12 with the display unit. I don't have the back of it. I got to find that. That's here somewhere. And then I kept my pop vinyl collection. I had a lot more. Sold them. Kept these guys. They're all the pop vinyls that are drinking coffee, which, hey, maybe you don't know. I kind of like coffee. Kind of have an addiction. Then I kept, I had a whole bunch of horror ones, but I kept the best one. I kept Black Phillip. I think that's a fantastic one. So, enough about my toys and getting rid of toys. Let's see. So we had PopCon last week, and in some ways it was quite a success. In others, I've got some new ideas, some things I want to change. We talk about the pivot on here a lot. I'm also interested in maybe pivoting, really pivoting with Writers Row. not sure what I want to do with it. I know that my partner on it is like, let's do a bunch every year. And we pared her down to 4 a year. And after doing this one, uh, like I said, success keeps going up each time. We're making a little bit more. We're getting more fine-tuned on things that I make mistakes on that I see I become more glaring. And I'm like, I got to make sure this is done earlier. I got to make sure this type of communication is done. Good morning, Chelsea. There's an underlying issue that I'm seeing. And Maeve, Molly, and I have been talking about it this week. And that is the cons themselves. Now, PopCon we love. They are our friends. They've been very good to us. Problem is, our con's really where it's at. I know you see 1 million people cutting through a con, and you go, wow, that's amazing. But how many books are you actually selling there? How much are you actually doing in business? And is it worth taking your executive team out to do it? Maybe there's a better way. Doesn't mean it goes away. It means, can you pivot? Is there a better thing you could be doing? Brings me to one of today's topics. I want to talk about business plans. As a marketer, as a entrepreneur, I know I keep tying those two together, but really you have to, right? You have to think as on the leadership business side of things, and you have to think on the marketing side of things. If you separate them, you're already dead in the water on certain things. Good morning, Sarah. I'm so happy you're here. You haven't been here in a while. So, you know what? Before I do that, we're going to talk about business plans today, unless some great questions come in, which they could. I was in with my therapist this week, and if you don't have one, super beneficial to have somebody to talk to. All right. I cannot stress that enough. I think that I don't know how I didn't have one before. It's very helpful. So anyway, while I was in with my therapist, we were talking. She'd asked me about Maeve and being involved in my work life, which is inseparable. We've worked together forever. She is the other half of the coin. She's vital, right? So where she's more introverted and might hide from the spotlight, I have to be pushed into the spotlight and talk on camera and do that. But if she wasn't as introverted, she could be the one that's out here, and I could take a backseat on some of it. It's a give and take, and she's vital. So with my therapist, we're talking about that, and she brought up the thing of, do you need her at each thing? Like, is she a crutch to you? And that, I mean, it's a valid question. It's not true. Okay, spoiler, that's not true. But I did work through it and realize what she is, and I think this is something that is really important. This is outside of being my spouse and being this person I respect and blah blah blah. This is something else. So in sales, when I was in sales, actually even better when we had our store, there's a thing called the smart friend. So you're working in a store. Let's say you're selling a car, and a person comes in to buy a car, and they bring with them a friend who has a particular model of car, knows a lot about cars, is going to advise them in front of the salesperson. That's called a smart friend. Smart friend can be the salesperson's enemy if you're not careful, because a lot of times smart friends have their own agenda. So you're trying to sell them on a new concept. Hey, you loved this car, there's a better car. The things you loved about it, there's a better one that ranks higher. Smart friend says, yeah, but I have that. You should really get that. You should get the old one. You've been happy with it. And they start undermining the salesperson. Now, as a salesperson, I was able to navigate that more often than not. Uh, you basically, if you want a pro tip on professional selling, um, I'm deciding what I want to put on here. I'll put this one. You engage the smart friend in conversation, okay? And you make them feel like it's their idea. So instead of talking to the customer, you talk to the smart friend to get them on your side so that they start turning to their friend and they're like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. She has a great idea there. Oh, good, thanks. Cool. We're all friends here. You're working smart friend. When I was talking about Maeve, I realized she's a different thing here. When we go in shopping, we don't play the smart friend game. We never do, right? I know more about electronics. So if the two of us go in to buy a TV, I'm the one who is going to have something to say about it. If she was the one picking the TV and she brought me along as a smart friend, hey, it's going in my office. I want to pick the TV. I just want you there to make sure I don't make a mistake. That's smart friend, right? But what we are to each other is something else. I told my therapist that she's what I would call critical friend. Not critical, like, oh, she's critical. No, she is your critical friend, your crucial friend. But it's you're critical to what you do. And that critical friend is somebody that wholeheartedly has your best interests in mind. Smart friend may have their best interests in mind while they're trying to help you, but they also don't want to look foolish, right? So they're going to push their agenda sometimes. But your critical friend has your best interests in mind. They are going to look out for you and give you clarity, whether it's painful or not, 100% of the time. I get in a business relationship with somebody. I'm thinking everything's great. She comes in and sees it and says privately, do you see who that person is? You need to get away from them. And then in hindsight, you look at it and you go, oh, crap. Even though that caused a lot of trouble for me, even though that wasn't fun for either of us to deal with, she's right. That's your critical friend. And I think that like becoming an entrepreneur, getting into business, whether it's just you're a singular author and you're writing your book, and yeah, you have a publisher, they're a business partner, they're a part of your team. You may have a smart friend that's done it before that advises you, or a consultant you work with, but then you have hopefully a critical friend. Now, me growing up, I had good friends. I had a lot of friends and, whatever, but I don't know if I had critical friend. Critical friend is the one that you say, I want to make my own movie. I need 3 cast members. And critical friend says, yeah, I'm terrified of getting in front of the camera, but I'm there. That's critical friend. They got your back in a way that it's like a second you. That's what I explained, but then I realized we need critical friends. When I talk about my friend Chris, the one who passed away a few years ago. By the way, that's a puppet version I made of Chris when we were doing our shows. If Chris couldn't be there, if any of the team couldn't be there, I would make puppets of them, and then they would be there, and I'd do impressions. The sole purpose was to shame them so that they would say, "I can't miss," because he's going to do an impression of me the whole time with a dumb puppet. After Chris died, we did an episode of one of our shows that we always did together, and I rolled out the puppet, and one of the guys was like, "Oh no, how can you do that?" And then I started talking to him in the voice, and at one point he started talking to the puppet, and then he went, "Oh my God, it was like he was here." That's why I rolled it out. That's why I did it, because Chris would have loved it. Loved it. Nothing weird there. I know where the line is. Now, the reason I bring this up is Chris, to me, became critical friend. He went to things we went to. He was like a member of our family, integrated in a way that, like, I knew he had our backs, all 3 of us, thick or thin, and that doesn't mean that you always get along. You can argue, but you know at the end of the day, you could have a huge blowout argument, which we never did, but if you had a huge blowout argument, critical friend is never going anywhere. "Yeah, I'm mad at you, but let's compartmentalize that while we do this other thing and have some fun, and it's honest and it's true. You've got a business idea. Let me hear all your thoughts, and I'm going to offer support where I can, and where I can't, maybe I can go that extra mile and get you some insight, or maybe I can keep thinking about it and maybe offer something. You can take it or leave it. We're friends. You won't judge me, and I won't judge you. That's critical, friend. I think that it's important that we keep our eyes open for that because they're out there. You've got them, and if you don't have them, don't worry. They will come because they have come in and out of our lives. Like I said, when I was a kid, I remember writing some, scripts. Now, we're not talking anything more than, like, 3 pages. I tried to write my own version of Dracula, and I told my friends, "We're gonna do we're gonna do it like a play of Dracula. How cool would that be?" And I had this whole plan. Now I look back on it, and I'm like, "Oh, I was making a marketing plan for my play Dracula before I actually did the work of writing the play." I had like 3 pages, and I was like, "Okay, we're gonna do this, and, we're gonna do it at the school," and I had this whole thing, and my friends, I couldn't get them to step out of the way of a moving car. Like, they weren't if they weren't interested in it, if they were just like, "Yeah," and they were like, "Oh, that's cool, I'd love to see that." "Yeah, I want you to be in it." Good friends, fun friends, not critical friends. "Here, I wanna see this." Sarah wrote something about critical friend. My story editor is my critical friend. She always makes sure I'm not selling myself short. She organizes stuff, and when she shows up to things, she looks at me and determines what I need. Usually a juice box and a snack. But you know what? You might be right. You might be right. That might be critical friend. And it's important to identify him and know this is the person that's there whose insights are really good. She's not giving me insights to forward her agenda. That's the critical thing here. Smart friend, while their intentions may be pure and good, a lot of times there is an element of ego involved in what they're doing, which they get something off of advising you, or they get like some validation or something. Yeah, they may offer good advice, but they also push you towards things that they like often. Critical friend doesn't, unless it's something like, hey, here's something I like that I know would work for you. If you don't go with it, that's fine. Doesn't matter. I have no skin in that game other than I want you to succeed. So, your story editor is that one. That's good. It's good to know that. Good to identify it. Maeve is mine. Chris was mine. He was one for for our whole family. Um, I mean, I do have a lot of people that are for us, but that particular thing, when you know it, you can feel it, you can identify it. And I hadn't ever said those words. And when I said it, the therapist was like, critical friend. She's like, oh boy, you should write a blog post about it. So I'm formulating, I'm talking out loud about it. Okay. So before I get going in what I wanted to talk about today, I want to hear what kind of questions do we have, or does anybody have any questions? It's been a while since anybody's chimed in with questions. Anything? Here, I'm going to get this set. Boy, and it's been a while since some of you have been on. I figured you'd be on fire with things like, "Hey, I'm trying to do this. What do you think about this?" Or did I get your mind spinning about your business? I'm good with that too. Oh, this is the wrong thing. I don't want to pull that up. I want to pull this up. Okay. Well, I guess we're going to go on and talk about panel. You're in need of marketing tips. Okay, let's do that first. Want to make sure people show up and all. And you laughed. Panel, I need marketing tips. Okay. All right, Sarah, let's talk about it. Uh, for context, what is the panel? Where are you doing it? Let's put that down. And in the meantime, I will do this, do this. There we go. While you're writing something about your panel, join my newsletters. I am definitely active on this. There's one called Pour Over Marketing, and there's one called Mic Drop. They are both on Substack. So if you go to Substack, look me up or type in those names. You should be able to find them. If not, let me know because I'm still figuring out how to build that. It's interesting because I've been writing these things and I do get people sharing it. Uh, but I have not been actively growing them because they're a little different. Uh, so there's that. And you can also watch this on YouTube. I still have not got it smoothly going over to New Media Lab for some reason. So it goes to Southgate Media Group, and then I'm taking those and I'm putting them over on New Media Lab. And another thing that I'm going to start doing is chopping these up into small bits so you can watch them almost like reels. So instead of having to sit through me drinking coffee and laboring on, when I get to the advice part, that's going to be a reel, and you'll be able to go back to it and see it and share it. Please do. Oh, this is all juicy stuff you're giving me here, Sarah. Okay. Stuff I can talk about. So there's two things. Okay, so first of all, the panel, Florida Horror Fest, and the panel is Horror in the Hands of Authors. Love it. Okay, so Florida Horror Fest. Oh, and actually, I'm going to tie it to the second thing. I'm also doing a meetup after at the arcade, and I'm trying to make sure people show up too. Okay, great. I have been here so many times I can't even tell you. In fact, I was here last week. So here's what we did to get people to the panels. And did it work? But that's marketing. Okay. So the first thing we did was something that I've seen you do, Sarah. We made images to promote it. Okay. Something good, something attractive, something that makes people be like, oh, what's this? It's cool. I've seen some of your panel ones you've made, the ones you did like with Maria. Those are excellent. That's exactly what you want to make. You want to make it both for the panel and one for the meetup. One thing you can do is create Facebook events for each thing. Use the image, have a description, and then get active in it. Okay? There is a discussion area. Even if people aren't sharing in, discuss. Share something. Share a tip, share a thought, something about it. Do a poll. I mean, you're doing it at Horror Fest? Easy peasy, man. What's your favorite horror movie of 2024? This is about authors. Uh, what are your top three, or what's your top horror book you're reading right now? Something like that. Ask a question, get people engaged, but do it in the discussion part of your Facebook event. Share your Facebook event everywhere you can. Do one for each thing. Don't muddy the waters. Don't say, this is my panel and I'm doing a meetup. Do two events. You can mention both things in the descriptions. This is, hey, look for my other event where I'm doing a meetup. Okay. You want to get people engaged and build a little excitement. Making a Facebook event helps. One thing that helps with, I'll give you an example. So another project I have, this is endless with these projects. I have a thing called Geeking Out. Okay. Geeking Out. I do it for Chicago. I would love to do it in other cities, but I haven't gotten Chicago tamed yet. Hmm. If anybody wants to do one, talk to me and I can help them set it up for their city, and then they run it. I don't need to run it. So Geeking Out, what I do there is I take before I would just scour for Facebook events, and if there was something geeky and nerdy, you know, there's a toy show, there's an art show of comic book art, there's an improv group doing Smokey and the Bandit. These are all geeky, weird, nerdy things, right? They're horror authors all meeting at buckets of blood. Cool, nerdy, geeky things. I would, because they made Facebook events, I would take it and I would share it to the group and I'd say, happening this weekend. Easy, super easy. The thing is, I would run into people that said they went to the event because they saw it on Geeking Out. Not a huge audience, but it worked. Then I expanded it, and this is something that I really would love to have happen. Expanded into having some reviews of certain things. I don't want criticisms, I want reviews. So there's a science fiction fantasy theater in Chicago called Otherworld. They loved us. We're friends with them, but they loved Geeking Out. In fact, when they first talked to me about it, they didn't know it was me. They were like, "Oh, we'd really love you to come out and review it and blah blah blah." And I said, "Yeah, you know who you're talking to, right?" Oh my God, they already knew me, but they didn't know it was me because it's not, my name isn't on it anywhere. And we would review their, they do Princess of Mars as a live stage show. That is a super geeky thing. We would write a review of it. Go see it, write a review. It was super cool. I put things like zine fests and stuff like that. Sarah, by you making those Facebook events, it now becomes something that somebody like me with Geeking Out can find it and share it. Share it through my channels. Share it through event calendars. There's another one you can do. Just because it's not your event, you're not the horror fest, you've got this thing. You can also look and see if there are any outlets that have events calendars, radio stations, local horror groups, and contact them. Hey, I'm doing a panel with horror authors at Horror Fest. Can I get it on your calendar? If you put in that legwork, you're going to find that you're going to get a fair number that will let you do it. Okay. Once again, is it going to work? It's marketing. Who knows? Try it. For the panels of PopCon, so we shared it from. I made events. We shared it uh, in the Writers Row Facebook page. I then shared it from Southgate Media Groups because, hey, it's a partnership with Southgate Media Group. I then shared it from my own personal. I then looked at some of our other things, like we have a thing called Alley Chats. It's a podcast where I interview people from artist alleys at cons. I shared it in there. Hey, you guys, here's a con you might not know about, and look at these cool panels. And they all had artwork and they all had descriptions. We've talked before. Make it a nice, juicy description. Sarah, I know you're doing that. Okay. Get it out there every place you can. By having the Facebook event, it does make it way easier on Facebook to do that. And once again, get in discussion. Another thing that I did, now I didn't do it for the individual panels, but if I was alone, if I'm doing an event at Horror Fest and I'm an author and I've got my booth and I know I'm doing 3 panels, one thing I would do is think, and this is me because I make podcasts, I would probably make a short podcast, maybe do my 5 questions thing. Whoever's going to be on the panel with you, hey, come on, let's do 3 questions kind of around the subject, but don't blow the subject, right? Put that as an update on the event. and then take that and put it on your Facebook, put it on your Instagram with a link, write it in your, put this all in your newsletter that you're going to be doing this, right? Maybe take those 5 questions and put that in the newsletter with a thing underneath it with the event. You're building interest. You're building interest in your fans. If you're trying to reach new fans, you've got an event here. With PopCon, I went to they had 2 pages, one which was like a fan page and one which was PopCon official. The official one really just put guests that were going to be there. You're a guest that's going to be there. So I sent to them. I would go in and I would try to post it, and it would have to get approved. Every one of them got approved. The events got approved. The interviews got approved. It got discussion. And then I made sure I wrote something. If they approved, we were doing a panel about pour over marketing. If somebody wrote in there, somebody did. On the PopCon one, they said, "Oh my gosh, are you recording it? I really would love to see it, but I'm going to be in my booth." Great. I got in discussion with them on the page. Then at the con, I found them. They were like, "I can't go." I said, "Well, can you send somebody?" No. Okay. It's going to be streaming on Facebook. She said, "Oh my gosh, great." And I know she watched it because she told me she did. So those are ideas. And it doesn't have to be Facebook. Make a TikTok about it. You're on TikTok. Do a thing. I'm doing a panel. It's going to be about this. Make sure you tell them what it's about. If it just says a name, horror and authors, horror and authors, I'm going to be discussing this, and I've got a special guest. It's going to be amazing. It's horror. We might just make you crap your pants by the end. Something that makes people like, yeah, this looks like it's going to be fun. I don't know. Crapping your pants doesn't sound fun, but okay. Let's go through some of these things. And absolutely, you get the arcade that you're going to be at. See if they'll share it. See if the con will share it. You share it in Facebook, Instagram, if you use X, TikTok, if you can do it there. Be creative, but treat it just like you're treating selling your book. Share your panel the same way. Put it in your newsletter. Maybe, here's an idea. I know you have horror author friends. Okay? I happen to know some of them. Ask if they will put something about it in their newsletter. Hey, I have this thing coming up. Do you want to ask me a couple of questions and do an interview with me for your newsletter so I can talk about it? Or would you mind putting an ad for it in your newsletter or in your social media? Would you do that for them? You know you would. I happen to know you, Sarah. I know you would do it. And I know a lot more than you think would do it for you. Okay, Facebook event. Why the hell did that slip my mind? COVID brain. Yeah. Should I do like a giveaway on the event page? Do you think that would drum up some interest? I want to also do that at the panel as well, the way you do. Yeah. You know what? It's not a bad idea. If you think of what kind of some kind of magnet, don't do anything that's going to cost you a lot. I mean, hell, you could even something like that. If you have a friend that does like horror comics, hey, do you have like 20 of your books? I want to do it as a giveaway in my panel room. A lot of times they're like, yeah, I've got extra stock. Cool. Then you give it away. Everybody that comes in gets a free comic book. And say that. Free comic, everyone that comes in. Something like that. Okay. Sarah says that's an awesome idea. Not about what I just said. I don't know what she's talking about, but I will take that. And that is shining bright. Okay. Hi, Chinto. I didn't notice you were here. One thing that I'm thinking about is how Facebook has become the new MySpace. The users are not growing and we are just getting older. Yeah, it's true. Facebook is kind of the old people social media right now. But that doesn't mean what we're talking about isn't super effective, right? Know your demographic. If you're trying to attract teenagers, well, this is a good tool to put it out there, but this isn't where the teenagers are necessarily at. So I gave examples based on I'm doing a panel. I know what it costs to get into cons. I know who's going to the cons. this is how I attract them. But if I'm doing a panel about what is that anime maid thing that everybody's cosplaying, and I see if I'm doing a panel that is that, yeah, I might do a Facebook meetup for that. Yeah, I might do all the things. In fact, I would do all the things I said, but then I would probably go after that group on Snapchat and on TikTok because that's where they are. Sarah agrees with you, Chinto. And Chinto again, I'm talking to the Gen Z guy who tried breaking down TikTok. I've never felt so old, but yeah, TikTok is the way to go now. Yeah, it is. And you know what? I will tell you something. Here, we'll get Sarah out of the way with the ooh, good idea. I will tell you something about the whole TikTok thing. I was talking to a millennial. They were telling me how I'm really missing the boat by not doing all this TikTok stuff. And they're right. I need to be doing it. I need to do it for pour over. I need to do it for my business. There's lots of things. I'm just not doing it yet, basically because I haven't gripped what I want to do. I don't want to, I mean, yeah, I don't mind going in and failing. I know that you're only as good as your last video. So what does it matter if you dip your toe in and it didn't work? Keep going. Because nobody's going back through your history. Go like, I didn't like their first 4, but the other 20 were phenomenal. But those first 4, who cares? Who cares? I just haven't figured out what I want to do. Like for this, there is a way I can do something different with TikTok. That's always what I look for is what can I do that's a little different that might work? Just taking clips of this, although it's funny. This person I was talking to this weekend, who is an influencer on TikTok, he does fitness stuff. He was the one that was really pressuring me, and he said, you know, he thinks it's funny that people put all that effort into, I'm going to do this dance thing, and I'm going to think about this and that. And he goes, I would take this because we were talking about this, and he said, I would take video clips from it and just chop it up, and then just put some effects on it and have the word scroll on it. He said people will stop and watch it. It'll work. He said it's not. He said everybody's got all these ideas on TikTok and all these crazy things you need to be doing. And he said, I've also seen people that do nothing. They sit there and they look at the camera and then words kind of scroll by and they're getting a million hits. He's like, you just be creative and do something and try to tag it right. Try to figure out what areas your people are in. Vader. Okay, let's see. Sarah wrote more. This I want to read. TikTok has been generating ARC reviews like crazy for me. That is great information, Sarah, because this is something we've been talking about. Is I really pushed the ARC thing a few months ago with 4 Horsemen, and if you notice now in our social media, there's ARC things all the time, and it's working. But we have not kicked in a TikTok ARC thing. So now that I've seen you say that, I can look at what you're doing and say, okay, how do we add that into our strategy? They're all 5 stars, and those same readers are sharing it. Great. And also finding me on other social media channel. Phenomenal. I'm amazed at how powerful TikTok is right now. It's also, you can't say it's not going away at any point, but unless like Elon Musk buys it and turns it into propaganda machine, it actually it feeds all the things. Video always works. It's always hot. There's creativity going on all over the place on it. There's engagement opportunity all over the place. People are going to start getting more creative with it too. What I want to start doing is figuring out like how do you tell story through it that drives people along your story. If you look at that chart that I had made, I showed it before. Is I talk about the different types of content. I don't mean video versus whatever. I mean things like content that make sure you have an engagement one, make sure you have an informative one, make sure you have one of them is long form. And long form is one that I see ignored a lot, but damn, it can be powerful. And I'm waiting to see that really happen on TikTok. And in fact, that might be what I try to do is add long form in. And long form would be You take a blog post, let's say, and each video you make them, 10 or 20 seconds on TikTok. So that's going to be a few sentences. And then part two goes to part two. There's the rest of it. And then there's the rest. And you keep them going along a stream for one singular piece of content, but it keeps them engaged, right? I don't see a lot of that happening on TikTok. It's funny. I see it on Facebook Reels for some reason. And it's usually people that are like, top 5 creepiest things on the internet. They'll do 3 and they'll say see part 2. Then you go to part 2 and there's the next 2. They'll say you want to see more about this? Go to part 3. Okay, let's see what this says. Biggest tip I got for TikTok is get good light. Well-lit videos do better. 100%. 100%. We have a big ring light. We have all sorts of lighting. We're so European that everything washes us out if we're not careful. So we have to be very careful with the type of lighting we're using. Like I'm looking at this right now. It's good lighting for me. But when I watch it back later, I'll go, oh my gosh, I'm so like white balance is so off. Yeah, when you're making these videos, be cognizant of what your background is and what the lighting is for you. The other thing is audio. Hold on before I look at this. Yeah, lighting is super, super important. But one that people forget about is audio. If you're just putting the song on from TikTok, it sounds great. I've seen TikTok videos where they didn't do anything to the audio. You don't always have to. Sometimes the mic on your phone is great. Like it doesn't have to be like the setup I've got, right? But then I've also seen videos where maybe it was muffled. They had the mic like this and they're talking and you're like, wait, I can't hear them. If you didn't hear me, they can't hear me because I'm off mic. They have a leveler mic clipped, but it's under their shirt, so it's the whole time. That kind of stuff turns people off in 2 seconds. With podcasting, I would always say that people do their intros, and sometimes they would have like a pre-recorded intro. They'd record it once and go, okay, I got it. And it sounds like they're in a tin can and underwater, but they'd go, oh, but I did it. It's got this great intro. Yeah, but it's the entry. It's the doorway, and it sounds like garbage. Careful of that with TikTok too. Listen to what you create and make sure, does it sound okay? Is there so much background noise I can't understand the person? If you have to strain to hear it and you think, oh, but others will do that, they won't. They will go on to the next video. Okay, now I can read it. Sarah wrote, my advice, book talk lives. Yes. Join in and introduce yourself. Ask the host questions. See, this is not just for book talk. Okay, you're saying it for book talk because that's what you do, but each of these talks can be really vital. When Serena guested on here, she was talking about how she infiltrated a couple of different talks. There was art talk and there was mermaid talk or something. And she was like, yeah, get in, introduce yourself, be active. And those communities can be super embracing. To the point that they'll be writing advice like super engaged. It's more engaged than anything else I've seen. That's why it's working. Ask the host questions before revealing who you are. It usually turns up some excitement in the live to the point where someone starts asking about the book. Oh, you're talking about Book Talk Live. Right. Yeah, live is fantastic. It's the same thing with Twitch. If you can get into a Twitch thing that is relevant and you can get in there, watch for a bit, then introduce yourself to the host. A lot of times the host gets so excited that you're there that they'll start like promoting you and pushing you like, oh, you know who's here? Everyone starts asking about the book. That's how I've done it, and it's been working. That totally works. So simple, but a little time consuming. It is. But you know what? Over time, it becomes less time consuming as some of these groups become familiar with you. So if you're going to Book Talk Live and it's the same host, After 3 or 4 times, they know who you are. You go in, you put it on, and just engage a little bit, and they'll start promoting you just because, "Oh, Sarah's here again." What happens every time I do this show? "Hey, Sarah. Hey, Chinto. Hey, Serena. Hey, Chelsea. I see you guys. I see you guys. I know who's here." You get talked to, you get talked about. Uh, but necessary and really generates that final product, a purchase and a review. Excellent advice, Sarah. And once again, you're putting it in the context of books. I would put it in the context of whatever you do. Find the talk that matches what you're doing. That fitness guy was telling me, like for our podcast, he said I would go into the whatever the podcast talk is, a general one where podcast fans are, and I would also do it for specific to whatever your niche is. So if you do a podcast about fitness, get into fitness talk, get into podcast talk, and get active in those. Go on the lives, make friends, do split screens with people in those. And those communities will become very aware of you. And that is how it leads you into the funnel that lands you, hopefully, a purchase. Genuine interest in the reader creates an authentic relationship. Sarah, are you going to make your first pour over marketing t-shirt? Because that right there should be on a t-shirt or a mug. We should put that on a mug. Chinto, yeah, audio is important. I want to listen, not decipher. 100%. 100%. It's just like when we talk about, I don't know if you guys heard when I talked about artwork for like podcasts or your book or your website or the top of your social media. It's critical. It's critical to think about it, make it tie in, make it make sense, make it speak to your audience, because that's the front door. And audio is part of that front door. You go to a house, yes, you're attracted to the door. And we've talked about the curb appeal and all that. In fact, I think the last episode was all about curb appeal. But audio plays in that too. You go and you ring the doorbell and it goes, zit. You might laugh. Or you might be like, what? It sounded horrible. It's off-putting. Same thing with your social media. If you're using sound, don't have it be something that distracts or is off-putting. Have it sound okay. Have it sound where people don't have to. I mean, yeah, I know there's the whole idea like, oh, if they have to listen harder, they're paying more attention. You ever seen those TikToks or reels where they do the thing where it's like it's showing like a book cover, showing a book like this, and it's bouncing and it's saying things underneath it like greatest fantasy book I've ever read. My favorite author of all time. If I could give more than 5 stars, I would. And at the last second, it goes like that. And then it goes back to the beginning. You're like, what book was it? That's a trick. You might watch it 3 or 4 times trying to pause on the book, right? Number one, it's a trick. I don't usually subscribe to that person. I might fall for it once, and then to see what it is. And then I'm like, it's annoying. Same thing with audio. If you think, oh, I can be annoying with my audio just to get them to listen more closely, remember the key word there is you're annoying. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a mistake. You want to make it the best experience possible all the way around. Then you can do things that might manipulate the situation to get somebody to sign up, offer a loss leader, whatever, something to, and manipulate's not a great word for it. It is what marketers do. But tricks get sussed out pretty quickly. All right. Boy, that was a lot of questions. You're going to make me save what I really wanted to talk about this week for next week. We already have a subject. That's awesome. Here, let's do this. If you're there, we're there. This is actually about our parent company, Southgate Media Group. This is also about Four Horsemen, which also means that it is somewhat about Writer's Row, even though we haven't gotten to all of these. We're on some of these. But the key is you, the audience, if you have a favorite platform, we're either there or we're about to be there. And that way we can engage with you. And when you're thinking about your brand and you're thinking about what you do, think about where your audience is. I say it right there. If you're there, we're there. So, Sarah, you're having success with TikTok. You weren't on it before. When you started it, you were amazed because my audience was there. I should add TikTok to this, by the way. I don't have TikTok on there. It doesn't mean you have to put all your eggs in one basket. It also doesn't mean you have to put an even amount of eggs in each of these baskets. But you want to be where the audience is. If you go on Twitch and you do a live stream, you're on somebody's show, let's say, not even your own, go on a show, get guested on a show, and you find out that, like, oh my gosh, people were writing to me on there. They want me there. Be there. Facebook, it's for older people. Okay. But they're still there. Those Facebook events, very effective. You know what's super effective on Facebook? Groups. More effective than anything, I think, from a marketing standpoint. Find groups that match what you do. I know that I invited a bunch of our people into Books of Horror. It's a group that has 54,000 people in it. 54,000 people and super engaged. Super engaged. There are names you see all the time because those people have realized, hey, I need to get in there and comment. I guarantee, Sarah, if you started commenting, if you said, I'm going to actively comment on like 5 posts a day, people would start knowing who you are. When you post, my book is coming out, people would get excited and be like, oh my God, Sarah's got a book coming out. Okay. I am trying to move everything off of X. I want to shut it down. I think I'm not into it. That's against what I believe as a marketer, but I think I don't want to spend any time in there. So, okay, that's a decision. But I do know there's audience there. If the audience is there, if they're there, you should be there. Pinterest, if you're not there, okay, well, let's talk about it. How can you get in there and use it effectively? Does this mean it needs to eat your life? No. I could do one post that goes to Instagram and Facebook, and actually, they're rolling it out where it's going to push to Threads too. So now you've got it going to 3 platforms, one post. And if you notice Threads is getting more engagement, then add a post just for your Threads fans that you don't push through Facebook and Instagram. So it gives people a reason to join you on each. Remember that. If you're there, and change it to I'm. Say this to yourself. If you're there, my audience, I'm there. And work on that engagement. Let's see what it says here. Jinto, I need to learn Mandarin and join Bilibili as many active users. So it has so many active users. It really does. You know what? That goes back to the thing um, with podcasting, where I would always say with our network, it's got to be clean. You know, don't make it explicit. People go, but I'm the next Howard Stern. You're not. Number one. Number two, there are other countries that have huge, huge, huge audiences. If you can find a way to talk to them, if they're there, you should be there. And you're talking about this like, well, I need to learn Mandarin. You might be joking, you might not, but maybe there is a way in there if there's so many people. You're an artist. Yours actually would translate very well. If you could figure out a way to talk to them and show your art, you might just get sales. Way back when one of our breakthroughs with our podcast network, we were looking at the analytics, and one of our shows, Enough Said, had a ton of followers, listeners. There was, for some reason, it was like Chicago, LA, Japan, and like the Ukraine or something. I was like, what? But they were the biggest by far. And that really shifted the paradigm where we went, look, well, first of all, the vulgarity thing, what I was saying about that is if you have explicit content and it's not labeled properly, India and China will pull your show permanently off. And if they really get upset, they'll pull your whole network off. Don't do it. Why would you do that? You're cutting off two of the biggest markets in the world so that you can be Howard Stern. Mm-hmm. Great. Artwork is universal. So if you can find a way to talk there, it might just open things up for you. Yeah. X's, bots, and reactionaries now. It's terrible. It's terrible. I want to get rid of it. Totally. We have, I think, 117 Twitter accounts, not all active, but I'm in the process of just shutting them down. I don't even care about the Southgate Media Group one being in there. That used to be a really good one for us, but nobody engages on there now except for bots. Yeah. Brazil just blocked X in their country, the largest population in America. Yep. Yep. Another reason you don't want to throw all your eggs in one basket, right? Things happen. Places go under, places get blocked. You want to be where your audience is, but be smart about it. Know what you're talking to and who you're talking to. Be respectful. You know, I know there are people that have a different take on that marketing. Okay. That's up to you. But if you're taking my advice, if you're watching my show and you're taking my advice, be everywhere you can. You don't have to do everything. You could have one egg and split it across all of them and then throw most of the other eggs you have, the rest of the dozen, in the two that get all the activity. Right? I got to update that slide, by the way. Okay. You want to write me? You can email me at rob@smgpods.com. If you want to do a consultation, you can have a free consultation with me. 20 minutes, we talk. I try to give real advice, not just try to sell you something. And at the end of it, if it feels like, hey, we're a good fit, I can help you, we'll talk about it. We'll see what we can work out. Let's see. Let's see if I have another slide. I really like that one. Oh, I could show you what we're going to talk about next week. And then we can do my final slide because we are there. So this was what you were supposed to see this week. We're going to talk about business plans. Don't be fooled. It's not going to be boring. That's what we're going to start with next week unless something crazy happens, because you never know. But I really wanted to talk about business plans this week, and we're going to talk about business plans. And we're going to talk about what the difference is between that and a marketing plan and what you actually need and what's going to help your business. And I don't care if you're, Sarah, you're a writer, you're building a business. You need a plan. We're going to talk about that. And last thing, thank you guys for being here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I woke up today and I was like, oh, I didn't even want to make my coffee. And I'm like, I know people are going to be there. I got to get on. And I'm really glad I did. I think this was good. Last thing, it was brought to you by Southgate Media Group. I love saying that. I love that we're back, even though we're back in a very funny way. It's not what it's not fully pumping or anything, but you know what? Hell yeah, it's back and it's happening. It's all happening. Uh, uh, yeah, and thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Chinto. Thank you, Chelsea. If my mom was lurking, thank you, Mom. I'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, or something like that. And watch for my blog post this week. I'm going to write about the critical friend. Have a great weekend, you guys. Oh, and happy Labor Day.